This week on the Documentary Review Podcast, Jonathan and I live our dashes as we review the 2011 documentary Into the Abyss. My name is PT. Welcome to the program.
I'm Jonathan. Welcome to our slightly late edition of the Documentary Review Podcast. Only late if you're listening live. Everybody else, you're right on time.
Absolutely. This is our third try doing this, but it's okay. It's part of the excitement of the live podcasting world. We never know where it's going to go. And this is our 20th episode, and it feels how the time has flied. If I had to guess, I would have said this was like our 6th episode.
Right, I know, 20. Can you believe that?
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. I think it's a good podcast because it's something I would probably do anyway. Like I watch one movie a week, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then just get together and talk to you about it for an hour. So
yeah, it's actually been great for me because I love to watch movies and documentaries, and I didn't even get to watch one a week anymore. I'm just busy with life, so this gives me that. Now I'm forced to do it. I get to watch one per week, so I'm psyched.
So Jonathan, tell us this. This week we got Into the Abyss by Werner Herzog. Tell us a little bit about this crazy documentary.
It is a little bit of a crazy documentary, and it looks into kind of focuses on someone on death row, a man named Michael Perry, who was involved with a horrific crime, but unlike most documentaries that would tackle this subject matter, he looks almost not at all into the actual crime and how it's solved and how the players were involved into it. Instead, he looks into the effects of death row on both the inmates, the victim's family, and anyone else who's really involved, and how it affects those people and the town around them. A very unique look into the death penalty in the United States.
Nice, good, very good synopsis. I'm impressed with your synopsis skills. So tell me, what did you think of this year documentary? Give us your quick thumbs up or thumbs down.
I give it a thumbs up. That's my quick answer. Thumbs up. I enjoyed Into the Abyss. Yeah, you? I'll give you all my reasons over the next hour.
All right, good deal. I gave it thumbs up as well, and I do think it was a great counterpoint to our documentary of last week, Misrepresentation. Like, this is really two extremes of the ways to look at an issue. Like, that was definitely like totally 100% talking heads. Like, they want you to believe that their way, and here's a bunch of statistics to kind of back it up a little bit. And this was like the complete opposite of that. Like I really liked the way Werner Herzog presented this, and like I liked that he came out and said that he was against the death penalty, but I never at all felt like he was trying to like shove down my throat that the death penalty was wrong. Like, he really, I felt like let his interviewees say what they wanted to say, and he was very respectful of what they had to say, and in some cases it would have been very easy for him to like make fun of the people, but I felt like he was like super respectful to even the completely ridiculous people that he interviewed, and I just thought it was I really liked the way he approached this.
Yeah, I completely agree that I like Herzog even more because he's such an interesting character in this documentary because he has zero screen time. You literally never see him throughout the entire documentary. You only hear him occasionally ask questions or make comments to the people he's interviewing. But and in some of those comments, yeah, you can absolutely tell that, yeah, he's against the death penalty, but they're very subtle, and you have to be paying attention to even catch those. And he absolutely does not try and force that issue at all. In fact, that, like I kind of said in the synopsis, what made this such an amazing piece is that it just presented a very unique perspective on the entire situation, and gave you full control over your take on it. Like I said, didn't try to sway you at all, even though he's against it. Didn't try and bring up anything, even in the case, because I mean that alone, and I guess that's probably why I didn't do it. Like I said, so they do go over the crime. They do say what happened essentially, and when they go over the crime, they go through it. You know, the actual crime that they're on death row for happened in 2001. They go over one of the police officers who was involved in the actual crime scene when it occurred. You know, and so he kind of goes through it, and he does say like, yeah, this guy killed the people and things like that. You know, because that's obviously the official story. That's why he's on death row. But they don't go through like, okay, he was here and it was his idea and this guy deserves to die or this is why he's guilty. I mean, they don't even touch on that. They don't touch on those details at all. Who did what? And in fact, you know, when they interview Michael Perry, he's like, I was completely innocent. You know, I was 100% innocent. The facts totally proven that. You know, and I wasn't even there. You know, he makes those comments, and Herzog never even touches them. Doesn't go off to like try and find evidence one way or the other to prove that he was there or not. Doesn't even bring it up for anyone involved.
Yeah,
you know,
that was a super interesting part of the documentary to me. Also, is like he just seemed completely disinterested in the idea of like whether they're innocent or not. I guess like, I mean, he was probably pretty convinced that they were guilty. It seemed like the evidence was pretty strong on that front. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. And I really love too the way he like in most of the documentaries we watched over the last 20 episodes, when there's like an interview or a talking head, you hear the person talking, but you don't usually hear what the question is that prompted them to say that thing. And that was what really cool, and I thought in this documentary, was that a lot of times you actually heard the question and what prompted them to say what they said, and that could obviously make a huge difference in what they're saying if you actually hear what they were asked to prompt that.
Right, you're absolutely right. That in almost all, I mean, like all the interviews are shot from a first perspective camera, just like we're talking to each other now, except you only see one shot at a time, which is how all interviews or most all interviews are shot. But yeah, you're right that in cases like that, especially in documentaries, it's only you see these sound clips and you just see obviously you kind of you interpret what the question was and all that, and with him it's not even just that you get to hear the question, but he actually it's an interaction, it's a live conversation between him and the people, and then you can, occasionally he does steer the people to try and find out something, or he'll be like, hey, hold up that picture of of your loved one that died in this incident, or why do you have that tattoo on your face, or whatever. He asks these, silly, or, seemingly just very small, silly questions, and then, it's very much a conversation, but you only see one side of the camera. It was just very uniquely done, and I thought it made, it added a lot of depth and character to this documentary.
Yeah, I agree for sure. So let's get the Jonathan perspective here. I want to know, Jonathan, if it's not too much of an imposition, feel free to say I refuse to say that on the open internet. But first of all, do you have a strong feeling pro or con death penalty? And did this documentary, if so, did this documentary, I assume it didn't completely change your mind or anything, but did it make you think of the other side at all?
Yeah, so I don't have I'm not an extreme viewpoint on the death penalty. I'm on the side of the fence that says I don't think we should have a death penalty for a number of reasons, and I think this documentary kind of reinforced it, for me, and also, I guess it kind of kept me right where I was, honestly, because there's some great points and great statements for both sides of the argument. I think in the end, there's a couple key points that they never bring up in this documentary. One big one for me is that, especially since DNA testing's come around and all that good stuff and modern forensics, we've realized that there have been a pretty substantial percentage of death row inmates that were not guilty of the crime that we put to death. And that alone says, we should probably just go with life in prison. That on top of, along with the fact that, I don't think it really deters any crime. And, at the point that someone's put to death, even in this, that was one of the points, anti-death penalty points, which was oddly enough made by an inmate, the father of the boy that wasn't put to death, Jason Burkett, that said, he felt bad for Michael Perry and his family, and he said, nothing. It changed nothing, killing him. No one's stopped doing crimes because of it. The victims' families are, those people are still dead. No one was brought back from the grave. But now we've killed one more person. It's a fairly compelling argument. And on the other hand, the victims deserve justice, and maybe there are some people that, I don't know. Even if you shouldn't be part of society, like we have an answer for that. It's called lifetime incarceration.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm pretty similar to you. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. And I don't want to say I was disappointed by the documentary because I wasn't at all. I loved it, but if there was one minor disappointment, I was kind of like hoping it would push me one way or the other a little bit more than it did. I almost want to say it like it made strong cases on both sides that I hadn't necessarily thought of. I guess if there is one reason for the death penalty, maybe it's to help the victims' families feel better a little bit. It seemed like it did, at least for that one lady.
Right?
That's really the only pro-death penalty argument I have. But then, like, one anti-death penalty argument that is pretty well shown in this that I had definitely never thought about is just the like incredible impact on like people who actually have to carry out the executions. Like they have an interview with the guy who's like a captain of the death squad or whatever. I forget what they called it, like the death troopers or something. And
Yeah.
And then also with like the chaplain, and both those guys, you can tell that they're pretty messed up from the whole thing. So there's pretty high like cost to your
Right.
human spirit or whatever to have to put people to death. And this is in Texas. This is a place where they put a lot of people to death. It's not like once in a while. It's quite a few people are getting put to death.
Right. That was you bring up a great point or a great moment of when they're interviewing the guy that was worked at the prison and actually carried out the procedure of the execution, and that really got me thinking, like, if you're ever playing like a game of what if as a kid with your friends, and the scenario was, what would it take for you to kill an unarmed man, who can't defend himself?
Right.
And anyone would say, that's totally messed up, and I would never do that. Or, most people I think would have that answer. Or, maybe if you're little kids, you could say, would you do it for $1 billion and things like that, and try and bring more questions. But you certainly wouldn't. I guarantee no one's answer to the question would be like, $18 an hour, I'd do it. that's insane.
My boss at work told me to.
Right, yeah, my boss at work was like, kill that guy. I mean, like, yeah, he was unarmed and strapped onto a table, but he was paying me $18 an hour, so I had to kill him. And that's crazy. But apparently it's, like, the other thing that made me think of, which is a little off topic, was in the movie Batman, The Dark Knight, when Heath Ledger, the Joker, is having his little spiel about, like, as long as things go according to plan, no one worries, even if that plan is horrific. I was like, yeah, that's totally right. This plan is horrific, but we all just say, well, yeah, that's how it goes. It's our job.
Yeah, you can tell, like, even like that guy is no longer in his job, and he's I don't know, what would you say? I think he's kind of against the death penalty now.
I think he's strongly against it. Like that, because he gave up his pension to quit his job,
right.
And then he said at the end, he said, now, because he was a very cool guy. He was a very interesting person too, because he said, hey, if the law says that some people have to die, then I'm going to go in there and carry out the law with respect and dignity in a professional manner. And that was his thought on it when he was doing it. And then, he goes through an example of one person that he killed that really touched him and affected him. And then, but he ended with saying that, yeah, no, he no longer believes that, and he doesn't think people have the right to deny someone else's life.
Right.
It seemed like a pretty strong opinion that if he would give up his job, his career, his pension, all that to make that point. So.
Yeah, and what I was going to say about it was, so even like years removed and anti-death penalty, like it still seemed a little bit like he had a little bit of pride, and he was like, yeah, we could like put those straps on in 16 seconds or whatever, and like he still had a little bit of that just institutional job well done kind of pride to it. So you could see, I could definitely see how he gets kind of sucked into that if that was your job and you worked your way up. And all that stuff.
and I'll throw in the caveat of like when I said that's a horrific thing to do and who would kill someone for $18 an hour. That doesn't mean I hold any ill will or think badly or poorly about the people that work in prisons. Um, that they do that. I mean, because again, that was a cool guy and he had his rationales for doing it. But like, it's not until you step back and really think about how horrific and messed up that is. And no offense to anyone that's doing it, because I get it. It is part of the plan, and somebody else would do it if you didn't do it. And there's a million things that somehow people rationalize it. But if you really step back and look at it, it's like, whoa, this is, like you said, those just got to take a hard toll on anyone that would do that. Because they don't just like, it's not even just for 1 second. Like that's the other thing you don't think about is it's not like that guard meets the person, for 13 seconds walking him down the hallway, straps him in the gurney, and then kills him. They just spent the entire day together. They spent their whole last day together, taking care of their last meal, prepping them, getting them prepared for what's about to happen. Literally hang out with them for their last day on Earth, and then kill them while they're defenselessly strapped to a table.
Right.
That's a tough psychological burden to bear.
Absolutely. It's pretty messed up, and like I said, I've never really thought of like the mental toll that would obviously take on the people doing it. But I'm glad you threw in that caveat too, though, just in case you ever go to prison and they're not like, we listened to that one podcast you did, bitch. You were getting visited tonight yourself.
No, well, it did occur to me after that. I was thinking about like, oh yeah, if somebody just hears me say like, how horrifically messed up what you do every day for $18 an hour is. I mean, that sounds really bad, but
right.
It's not how I meant it.
I mean, one cool thing about this documentary to me too is that like there's essentially no easy answers in it. There's nothing like even the crime itself is like so completely horrible, and then like so I guess we should say like the crime is essentially they are going to try to steal a Camaro, and they go like kill the lady in her house who has the Camaro, and then they end up killing 2 teenage kids to like get into the gated community, one of whom happens to be her son or whatever. So like it's a completely senseless and horrible crime, and at the same time they're just like these idiot kids. like that's what makes it like even more complicated. Is like they're not like these hardened criminals. They're just these complete idiot kids who are just doing this crime that like yeah obviously they should be horribly punished for this terrible thing they did, but also you're like, man, these kids are just such stupid little idiots. I don't know.
Right, yeah, and like oddly enough, like that was one of the things that affected me about this documentary too, was that where they go to steal this car, like I said, it's a gated community, which the part where that caused 2 more deaths just killed me. And like one of the reasons it killed me was because one, it's a really nice community. It's not like people are getting shot in the hood kind of a thing. They went to a really nice area. Came up with the worst plan ever in the history of the world to steal a car, and then ended up killing 3 people. But like I was sitting there thinking, like, especially the kids that get killed when they come back in, just to get the gate open. They basically need the little clicker to open the gate, the garage door opener, if you will, to get into this community. And they end up killing these 2 kids to get it. And I kept thinking, like, what if that was your child? I mean, I have a son. If my son were to die when he's 16-year-old because some idiot murders him for something that stupid. I don't know, like I mean, like I'm not one of those people that's afraid of the world or like fearful. I don't think, but man, that one just really put a chill down my spine, and I just like, I just thought of my son, and what if that happened to him? What if how could you continue on if you lost a child, especially something that senseless, that stupid?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That definitely I was affected the same way. That was like, man, that was not a case of like someone being at the wrong place or anything. They're just messed up, very messed up. So if you recall, I mentioned when we were kind of I was pitching this one that someone on Netflix had said that this made them pro death penalty, and someone had mentioned they made them against the death penalty. So. Wanted to get your take on. I don't remember the reason for the person who said that it made them against the death penalty, but the person who said it made them pro death penalty. Wanted to get your take on what they said. Because basically, what they said was the reason it really swayed them to be pro death penalty was the complete lack of remorse that either of the two killers that they showed displayed.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
Well, I think that's not quite a fair point. Only because so there's two people involved with the crime. One's Jason Burkett, who gets a life sentence instead of the death penalty. And you're right that neither of them, you know, show remorse in this documentary about it. But one, it's been a decade since it happened. Um, so it's a little hard to say that. And two, they're being asked questions not related to the actual crime itself. They weren't. Um, and then especially like Michael Perry, who's the one on death row, is professing his innocence that he wasn't even there. So, but I have to say, Michael Perry's the one that, especially like that, watching this, he definitely has deep-seated psychological and mental issues. I mean, even
Right.
not related to this crime. I'm just watching him in his interviews and the way he talks about the past, and you can tell he is fairly detached from reality in a lot of ways in his conversations. That yeah, I mean, like certainly just like hearing him and listening to him, I would say like yeah, he definitely needs to be not in mainstream society. And then you throw the crime in on top of that, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy needs to be in a mental institution or a prison or whatever. So I mean, I think he's out. I don't think that's a good argument for him that he doesn't show remorse. I think he just doesn't show. I think he's just detached from reality. He literally, I think, believed during the interview, during this documentary, that he wasn't involved in that crime.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I'm with you for sure on him. 'Cause and also he's going to be executed in like 8 days, so he's probably not going to not going to give a big confession right now when he's still trying to fight to prove his innocence or whatever. But yeah,
right,
yeah, for sure.
right. And then the other guy, the Jason Burkett. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I could kind of see him. Like I thought of it too. Like my flip side of the, instead of thinking about that they're not showing remorse, was that they were kids when they did this. Obviously, troubled kids that were although they didn't say they were drunk or on drugs when they did this, but I'm willing to bet they probably weren't sober at the time.
Right.
Um, you know, I think of things. Obviously, I didn't do anything horrific like that, but I did all kinds of things when I was young, like 16, 18 kind of age, that I would never ever do now. I mean, like just like dangerous driving and things like that. And then luckily, no one ever got hurt, including myself when I was a teenager. But there are things that now, as an adult, I would just be. I look back at myself like, oh my gosh, I was an idiot. I mean, like thankfully, no one ever got hurt. But there's certainly things I wouldn't even consider doing now. And I wonder if Jason Burkett, it kind of seemed like he would go into that category where, if they were to let him out of prison today, I could see it going either way, where he could live out the rest of his life just being a normal member of society, or possibly in his case end up back in prison just because it's kind of a family tradition. But you
Right.
know, but
Yeah,
but
yeah.
certainly,
That's
yeah,
yeah. I guess that's kind of what I meant with the no easy answers thing. It's like I mean, obviously you don't want to excuse it just because they're young kids because it's
right,
completely such a horrible thing. But at the same time, they're dumb kids. So like, while you don't want to excuse it, you be like, man, those are just idiot kids. And I don't know. Yeah, there's no easy answer there. I don't think.
right, yeah. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, on the flip side, yeah, I think that certainly life in prison is pretty appropriate. You hate to. And that's one scenario where you can actually throw your life away. I mean, he
Right.
didn't just. If he would have just stolen the car, I'd be like, geez, the guy's been in prison 10 years. He's an adult now. He looks pretty, straightened out now. Let's let him out and see how he does. But obviously, you kill three people, and that's
Right. I,
not
I,
not
I it's something I think about all the time. Not so much like I was never like into crime or anything, even when I was young. But like I do have definitely a tendency to like get off my own little world and just do stupid shit, like not pay attention and crash into my garage door or whatever. So I at least once a week I'm always like, God man, thank God I've never, and I'm much better about it now. Like it doesn't really happen as much anymore, hardly ever. So I'm always like, God, thank God I never like killed anyone or whatever. Like it would have been so possible for me to have accidentally killed someone.
right. Like just driving like that.
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
like I mean, I could have like, left my child in the car or something. Like I don't think I would ever do that, and obviously I never did. But like whenever I hear stories of like someone who left their kid in the car and just forgot about him, I'm like, man, that's horrible. But like if I could see myself like just spacing out. And, oh man. So yeah, I'm super happy I never did anything like that.
Well, I'm glad you never did either.
Thank you. Thanks for your support.
No problem.
Um, yeah, there's so much else to talk about here, but I just wanted to get your take also on the wife, I guess, right, of Jason.
Oh, yeah, she was his wife. That was one where I was not sold at all.
Let me give you something here. It was very interesting to me because like maybe a documentary that I really liked that I watched maybe a year ago or so, maybe a little more, was Paradise Lost, which is about some kids who go to prison for a murder, and that one's more about like whether they're guilty or not. But there's a similar situation where there's a woman who falls in love with one of the guys, and the really weird part about it is she looks so much like this girl, this woman. I was like, man, is that like a type? But and she said almost like the exact same stuff, like, oh man, death row groupies are horrible, but our situation is different, blah blah blah. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. But go ahead, what do you what do you think of this woman?
Yeah, that whole death row groupie thing, but that was like literally like a line she'd said was like, yeah, I'm totally not the kind of girl that just falls for some prison inmate. And I was like, well, obviously you are exactly that kind of girl because that is exactly what you did. I mean, not kind of. That's your story, and I'm baffled by it. I mean,
And she wasn't like an ugly girl or anything. I mean,
she wasn't ugly or stupid. She seemed very intelligent. In fact, there's a lot of people in this documentary that did seem really stupid, but she was not one of them. And she had helped. It appeared, they didn't dive too deep into how she got started on the Jason Burkett bandwagon, but she was helping him with his case and spent a lot of time trying to like essentially prove his innocence.
Right, exactly what happened in Paradise Lost.
Yeah, and then just like fell for him. But again, I've got to be like, there are a lot of people out there. Certainly, many, many options. Don't pick the one where the guy is in prison for life.
Maybe I look at like relationships too cold and like logically or whatever. But yeah, I would be like, okay, what exactly am I getting out of this relationship? Like, there's
nothing.
Like all the things out of a relationship, I'm not getting any of those things out of this.
Right. Yeah, he's going to be a total burden on you. Apparently, they're having children. There's going to be a burden on your child. He's never going to be there for the child, and
that was actually kind of nice. I don't want to call it a twist, but like they have been interviewed her throughout the documentary, and then she kind of like turns to the side. You see, she's all pregnant.
It was a twist because I didn't notice it. Like there was just the camera angle, and she was wearing black and all that.
Right.
Yeah, and the other thing that I thought was like a little crazy about her was like she, Herzog was basically like fishing, like, how did you end up pregnant, and is that really Jason's baby? Right. And she was at the end was basically like, well, yeah, I really should blah blah blah, and then she's like, oh yeah, what the heck, hey, yeah, basically I got snuck into the prison and we got to have sex, and now we tell everyone I'm artificially inseminated. But it was like, oh my gosh, shouldn't someone at the prison be fired for that now, or like should they like have an investigation? Because they obviously she wasn't like, yeah, they just allowed a conjugal visit or anything like that. She was like,
oh, see, I had a totally different interpretation of that. I thought that they smuggled some of his semen out.
Right. That's what Herzog was fishing for. He was like, because Herzog brings it up. He's like,
right.
Oh, so they smuggled contraband in. Is this the case of contraband getting smuggled out? And then that was when she goes on to say like, oh, I don't want to say because we could get somebody in trouble or we had help from the outside. And again, at that point, I was still kind of thinking like, oh, maybe that exactly what you said. She was, but then like when she's like, yeah, but she knew the date, and then she's like, yeah, I was, we tell everyone I was artificially inseminated, which would have been the answer, the real answer.
I took that to mean that they told people that she was just like artificially inseminated by someone else.
Yeah, I'd bet dollars to donuts on her statements in that little section of the interview that she got snuck into and they had sex and now she was pregnant. And someone at the jail could get in some huge trouble. That's
Probably all the guards are at death row now for that, because it's
Probably it is
apparently
Texas.
they throw you on death row pretty quick up in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy. So there's a lot like that. They also interviewed, different members of the family, and that was interesting, and it was obviously really sad. All the
Yeah.
different stories and stuff like that were pretty sad.
Yeah. Also, it's the saddest town in the universe. That I
Right.
mean, maybe there's probably some places in the Czech Republic that rival it or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of wish Werner Herzog would have been like, would like interviewed someone and they would have been like, "Yep, I'm a banker and I'm totally well adjusted and happy in this town and yep, nothing else to report really."
Right, yeah, because everyone he like bumps into is like, I mean, first of all, every shot of the town is like trailer parks and like destroyed buildings and things like
Right.
that. I mean, it looks like Beirut in the place. And then he's like interviews people and they're like, oh yeah, oh here's the scar from me getting stabbed with a screwdriver and I knew that guy and he put a gun to my head. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like I did learn to read when I was in prison, so that was really great. Like, what? This is the worst place.
Yeah.
You should all move.
Yeah. The one part where I felt like 'cause this documentary is pretty focused. The one part where he did go off the rails a little bit was that whole story about the guy who got stabbed by the screwdriver. But it was such a crazy story that I don't believe him for
Right,
going with it.
leaving it in.
The dude got like he was like, yeah, we fought for 45 minutes, and then he stabbed me with a screwdriver, and then I had to be to work in 30 minutes, so I just went to work.
Just went to work, man. What are you gonna do? It's like I thought I could take it. Oh, I guess I could because I'm still alive.
Man. So
Yeah,
see, apparently some people do have a good work ethic there in this town,
right. They do. That guy did.
so that's something.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny too because oh yeah, yeah. Again, back to I mean like with the other interviews of just like essentially random people in the town that had some mild connection to one of the two people involved with the crime. But like they had that bartenders here, and everybody that like talked about it was like, yeah, it seemed really weird because they just walked around and said they won the lottery, and that's where they got these two cars from.
Right.
Like that's the dumbest story I've ever heard. Why wouldn't you just say, well, I bought this car? Especially those
Apparently,
two
it's like
dudes.
so out of the realm of possibility that they're like, dude, we know you guys don't have jobs or anything. They had to be like, what is the most plausible thing? Let's just say we won the lottery.
Right. Again, just moments of consideration. They could have said, "Hey, yeah, we sold a bunch of drugs and we bought these cars," but people
Right?
would have believed that. Would seen a lot, and then later on, they could have been like, "Where'd you get those cars?" And they could have said, "We paid cash for them from some dudes.
Yep.
We sold a bunch of drugs." That could have actually got him out of prison.
Sure.
That story would have been believable.
Yeah, that bartender actually bummed me out a little bit because like at the beginning of her interview she seemed like semi-normal to me and like I was like, oh, okay, well, and then she like went off the rails and she was like, yeah, and then we went Joe riding in the cars and well, I saw some shotguns in the back and yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think I mean in her defense I mean obviously she knew right away that there was something up with it that they didn't win the lottery and get these cars.
Right.
But I don't think everyone in the town knew. Well, obviously no one knew that there'd been a multiple homicide. Everyone probably knew about that, because did they say how many days after the shooting of I guess it all happened at the same time, but like even when they arrested him, when they were when they caught them both, they still thought that he was using the ID of one of the boys that he killed, and they didn't even realize that he was dead. In fact, they didn't realize it was a triple homicide until after they arrested him, and then he confessed, and then showed him, let him know where the bodies were.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure what the time frame was between that.
Yeah, but I guess I was just trying to rationalize like that. Everyone in the town would have made that connection with the shotguns if they were like there was just a triple homicide with shotguns and then they took a car. I think everyone would have made that connection, but no one knew yet. It wasn't public knowledge at the time.
Fair enough. Good job defending the bartender.
Yeah, a little bit. But she was pretty depressing though, because she was like, "Yeah, I just put that horrific event in the back of my mind with all the other horrific stuff I've seen working at this bar."
The worst town in America.
Yeah.
Yes. Crazy. So I pulled up a review of this from our old pal and my new hero, Roger Ebert, after watching our documentary the other day. But he had a really good line in his. He gave this 5 stars. He had a really good line in his review that I thought was cool. That he said, in some of his films, Herzog freely shares his philosophy and insights. In this film, he simply looks, and he always seems to know where to look. Good job, Robert Ebert.
Good job.
You've captured it.
I think Robert Ebert was a pretty cool dude.
Yeah. Raj. Yeah, so I don't know anything else to say about Into the Abyss. Well, before I let you answer the question I just asked, I will completely interrupt and say Werner Herzog has a new documentary out, which I had zero interest in before seeing this, and now I kind of am interested in. And it's about a death. Someone's killed in a car accident where I think a teen was texting while driving, and it seems like a similar approach where he goes and like interviews people on all sides of like all the different family members who were involved and basically all their lives that were horrifically ruined. And before I saw this, I was like, man, this sounds so depressing. I have zero interest in that. But now I'm kind of like, yes, it sounds depressing, but I bet it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I'm becoming a big Herzog fan. He's pretty amazing point of view, and also makes me want to make a documentary. I was like, oh my god, you know what that guy needed? About $40 to make this documentary.
Totally, and also in that Ebert, the Roger Ebert review, he mentions that each of the people he interviewed in this documentary, he only met once. He met them that day and only did one interview with each of them. So,
oh, really?
So yeah, it really would not take much. I mean, you could knock this. I mean, the actual filming of this out in like 2 days or whatever.
Right. Yeah. You're exactly right. He could have been in town for 2 days then on this. So
yeah, that'd
mind blowing.
For episode 100, we should make a documentary.
There we go.
Reviewing. We're gonna make our own.
That's it. You just have to watch our documentary for an hour that night.
Anything else on Into the Abyss?
No, I think I think we covered it decently. I think we could probably talk for about 10 more hours on it, so I'll let it stop at that point. But it's a really rich and complex documentary shot in a very interesting manner. Again, that's good old Roger Ebert. It is just a look at that situation, and the rest is up to you. So if you like to challenge yourself and think a little bit, then take your time and go watch Into the Abyss.
Cool. All right, how many stars are you going to give this bad boy?
Ooh, I hadn't thought of this yet. I really liked it. I'm going to give it, I think I'm going to go with 4.5. It was really well done.
I'm going to give it, I think I'll stick with you at 4.5. I liked it a lot.
Right.
So there you go. If you'd like to let us know what you thought, you can email us at feedback@documentaryreviewpodcast.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts. So for next week, Jonathan, we've got 3 documentaries for you to choose from, and these are 3 documentaries about people swinging sticks. So, bear with me for a moment while I'm going to have to read you the official descriptions here for these.
No problem.
First of all, we've got a documentary called No. N-O. This absorbing documentary looks at the stormy career of Pittsburgh Pirates ace Doc Ellis, who threw a no-hitter on June 12th, 1970, while high on LSD. So that's
okay.
That's number 1. Our first person is swinging a stick. Number 2, we've got The Battered Bastards of Baseball. This is a documentary. I will read you. I guess I could have left out that this is a documentary. You probably could have assumed that. So here's the description. They put the balls back in the game. It's the colorful true story of the Portland Mavericks, a scrappy independent baseball team of underdogs started by actor Bing Russell in the 70s. And it doesn't say this, but I believe actor Kurt Russell was on that baseball team.
Huh.
So there you go. 2 stories of people swinging sticks. And finally, a third story of people swinging sticks. It's called The Short Game. Here is the description. Some of the greatest golfers in the world are 7 years old. They're fiercely competitive athletes determined to become champions on one of the world's toughest golf courses, and they're still in grade school. So there you go. Do you want to learn about the LSD no-hitter guy, the indie baseball team, or the childhood golf prodigies?
Ooh, jeez. I'm torn between the LSD. I don't know. The LSD thing, how could you like... Seems like it's got to be like a 30-minute documentary. Maybe there's more to it than that. Let's go with The Short Game. I'm not a big baseball fan, so yeah.
Sounds good. We will do The Short Game, which this director, by the way, did a great series. If you have access to Hulu, I think it's only Hulu Plus, but if you have access to Hulu Plus, he did this series of I think it was like a 6-episode TV show called Under the Mask, where he did like profiles of mascots, sports teams mascots, and he did one NBA mascot, one like high-level college mascot, I think it was like UNLV, and one like really cheesy high school mascot, and it followed them, all three of them, through a whole season. And it was super compelling and awesome. So I highly recommend that if you have access to Hulu. It doesn't sound that great, but man, it was awesome.
Okay.
So anyway, but so I have high hopes for this one because of that. So we will be back next week with The Short Game. I am PT. Keep it real.
I'm Jonathan. We'll see you next week.